You're my heart's desire. I just wanna love you, just wanna hold you, just wanna be with you till we grow old. Please tell me you'll stay or take me away. I want you for myself every single day. You set my world on fire. You set my world on fire. I don't know what I'd do without you. You make me smile, what is it that you do? My life was great till you added colors. Like the moon is the snow, we don't care about the others. You set my world on fire. You're my heart's desire. I just wanna love you, just wanna hold you, just wanna be with you till we grow old. Please tell me you'll stay or take me away. I want you for myself every single day. You set my world on fire. You set my world on fire. I just want you, I just need you. I don't know what it is you do. I just want you, I just need you. I don't know what it is you do. I just wanna love you, just wanna hold you, just wanna be with you till we grow old. Please tell me you'll stay or take me away. I want you for myself every single day. You set my world on fire. You set my world on fire.
Hey friends, it's Robin. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing my monthly reset. That opening bit, you kind of saw me set up my social media planner for the month. You saw me set up my July goals. I use the Moxie Life system. I will have them linked down below if you want to check them out. And then the other big thing that I did was I redid my shelves. I wasn't anticipating doing that, but I liked how it all turned out, and now my shelves are nice and new. I'm gonna comment on the fact that the lighting one sucks. And I don't have any makeup or anything on. This is 2-day unwashed hair. The smoke in Wisconsin has been here for over a week, and it has finally dropped below 200, which is back into the unhealthy instead of the very unhealthy. I have felt like garbage all week. I've had a perma headache. I have a sore throat. And I can't put my contacts in because my eyes feel like sandpaper when I blink. I kind of feel like garbage, which is why if you were looking forward to the A to Z recommendations that was supposed to happen earlier this week, it ended up getting pushed back because a couple of us were feeling very sick, myself included. So we are here to wrap up June. So I'm going to go through some of my stats, how I did in the month of June, and then I have some categories that we're going to kind of talk about. So starting it off with how many books I read. So as of today, it is noon on the 29th. I have finished 23 books. I do have 2 books that I'm currently reading, and I will probably finish one tonight, but this video is going up tomorrow morning, and so I need to get it filmed. So 23 books as of right now. If you want to know like that final number on the last day of the month, I do always post that over on my Instagram. So like on the night of the 30th, I will post my like final book count and my ratings and my favorite book and all of that stuff. On top of those 23 books, I DNF'd 3 books this month. And the greatest tragedy of Pride Month is the fact that 2 of them were Alexis Hall books, which makes me so sad because I love Alexis Hall and I've given so many of his books 5 stars, but I DNF'd Pansies around 40%, which I was warned going into this one. The on-page homophobia in this book was unbearable. to me. Like, I couldn't deal with it. One of our heroes is dealing with very internalized homophobia, and the way that he talks about himself as well as other queer people, I I couldn't continue to read. It was very, very difficult to read. And I had been warned going in. I just wasn't expecting it to this extent. And then the other one was Mortal Follies, which I ended up DNFing at 25%. And this one I might come back to at some point, because here's the thing. As I was reading this book, it was one of those books where you're like, everything about this should be working for me. Like, I like all of the individual aspects of this book, but every time I would think about picking this book back up, I was dreading it. Like, I didn't want to read. I kept thinking, like, what if I listened to my audiobook instead? And so I decided that that meant it was time to put the book down. I think what was holding me back from loving this one was that the focus of this one was on the style and the humor. Because of that, the characters and the plot itself didn't feel as deep or well developed as I'd wanted. And so it felt very slow and semi-meandering, because all of the emphasis on this book was put into the style and the narration and all of that kind of stuff. The focus on this one is the fact that our narrator is this sprite or something like that. But because they are like a third-party person watching these characters, the actual main characters aren't excessively well developed, because you don't get to know these characters because you are observing them and you are not part of them. Because of that, I was never connecting to the characters. I didn't particularly care what they were going through, because you were seeing everything from the outside looking in. I am a very character-driven reader. I need to be able to connect to my characters in order to love a book. And so I think that's part of why I didn't love this one. But it is one that I might return back to, because I wasn't disliking it or anything. I just wasn't drawn to it. And then the last one that I DNF'd is Business or Pleasure by Rachel Lynn Solomon, which I DNF'd at 45%. And this is another one that in theory should have worked for me. We are following these two main characters who have a disastrous one-night stand, and the two of them end up having to work together, and it is a sex lessons, like forced proximity romance between two Jewish main characters. And unfortunately, I didn't like it at all. This was the most clinical approach to sex lessons that I've ever had the misfortune of reading. It was so strange, the approach that was taken to this. You get to experience the first date, the disastrous first date, from the heroine's point of view, and it was so uncomfortable. And not in like a good or a funny way. I just felt uncomfortable reading it. And I was like, okay, you know what? We're past it. It's fine. Maybe it'll go better from here. Then the whole sex lessons thing starts, and there is zero chemistry between these main characters. And at one point, she sends him a lesson plan and then breaks out diagrams. And I was like, it was very odd. It was such a weird choice, and it just made it feel so uncomfortable. I didn't like anything about it, in all honesty, so I DNF'd that one. The book that I will most likely finish by the end of the day it's this one. The last book in the Never Just Friends series by Saxon James. I love this book. This is probably going to be a 5-star book, but there might be a discussion video coming at some point. If, like I said, if you follow me on Instagram, you saw some of my thoughts about comments that have been made. And I think I'm going to make a discussion video about reviewers who comment on the accuracy and validity of representation that they do not identify with, particularly to white women, because I think it is a bit of a problem. And so I'm considering doing a discussion video on that, because it really bothered me with this one. That's the one that I'll probably finish tonight, so we'll probably get to 24 books. So let's talk about my June TBR. I had set a 12-book TBR in my June TBR video, and of those 12 books, I read 8 of them. So the 4 that I didn't read are Best Men by Sydney Carter, which I do have, but I'm not going to grab. I don't know if I'm going to read this one anymore. I put this one on so many TBRs, and the reviews of this book are so low. And every single time I go to possibly read this, I see all of the 3-star reviews, and I'm just like, I don't wanna. So I don't know if I'm gonna read this one. It might just be one that lingers and withers and dies on my Goodreads TBR. The other ones that I didn't get to are ones that I still need to read, and they are Vicious Devotion by Veda Weiss, which I did at one point open up. I opened it up on my Kindle, and then at the bottom of your Kindle, it tells you how long it's going to take you to read based on your reading speed. And when I saw that number, I was like, wait, how long is this book? And this book is long. It is very, very long. And so I immediately closed it and read something else. So I still need to read that. I still need to read Pucking Around by Emily Rath for the exact same reason. 750 pages, man. It is so hard to get me to read a book over 500 pages, nonetheless a book over 700 pages. And so I haven't done it yet. And then the last one is actually In Sequence by Cole McCade, and this is just honestly a case of I ran out of days. Like, that's what it comes down to, is I ran out of days. I ended up reading a couple of additional ARC books, but it is actually one of the next books that I plan to pick up. It'll be happening soon. It just didn't happen quite in June. I had 3 June ARCs and I read all of them. Well, I read 2 of them and I DNF'd one. I read Live Theoretically and The 7-Year Slip. I actually gave them both 5 stars, and then I DNF'd Mortal Follies. And that was all of my June ARCs. So, like, look at me actually completing a month of ARCs. I haven't reviewed them yet, but I read them. The next couple of things we're gonna do are some categories. So, if you don't know, I am a crier. I'm a very empathetic person. I am a Pisces to my core, and literally everything in the world makes me cry. Maybe not always full on sob, but I get teary-eyed over everything. And so someone asked if I could start including what books make me cry every single month. And so I'm gonna do that. I actually only had 2 books that made me cry this month. First was The Jock by Tel Bauer. And for whatever reason, I wasn't expecting it with this one. And I don't know why, because all of Tel Bauer's books have pretty much made me cry. So I don't know why I thought this one would be any different. But there are some things that happen in this one that just, they hurt me to my core. Not only at the end where the big tragic thing happens, which, don't get me wrong, I bawled my eyes out. But I actually cried for the first time when they come back from Paris. I'm not going to spoil it, but when they come back from Paris, our other hero at home with his family, going through what he was going through, killed me. I was so sad. And then when they get back to campus, that whole thing made me so emotional. And then the other one was We Could Be So Good by Cat Sebastian, which, again, I wasn't expecting to cry, but this book got me. There are just so many good moments in this book, and I loved these 2 so much. I didn't sob uncontrollably in this one, but tears definitely were shed. And then next, I think we're going to talk about my least favorites. This does not include any of my DNFs. We already talked about those, so I'm not going to mention them again. But these are just the books that I gave the lowest rating. I have 3 of them, and they were actually all 3 stars. So these aren't terrible books by any means. They just were my least favorites of the month. So first was Grey by Jacqueline Osborne. I gave this 3 stars. I think Grey was a great side character and a boring as fuck main character. The other one was Cherry Bomb by Carmel Rhodes, which I did read for that dad vlog, and this was not like other girls' dad romance. I didn't like this one very much. You can go watch that vlog if you want all of my thoughts, because I talk about this one a lot. We won't dwell here. The other one is so unfortunate. It's Berries and Greed by Lily Mayne. I was so ridiculously excited for this book. I love a submissive hero. I actually just did a video a couple of days ago about my favorite submissive hero romances, and I love Lily Mayne. And so I was so excited to read this, and I am actually on Lily Mayne's ARC team, and so I got this early. This does actually come out today if you are watching this the day that it comes out, so if you are interested in picking this up, it is available now. But this is another one of those cases where you open up the book and you see how long it's going to take you to read, and you're like, wait a minute. And then you realize that this book is 530 pages long, and that is too fucking long for a low angst romance, okay? Here's the thing. I love a low angst romance. I know not everyone does. I think that writing a low angst romance is a totally separate skill set. This didn't do it. One, it was way too long. If there is not enough plot to carry you through 530 pages, you feel every single page. And that was the case here. There is 0 plot in this book. There is no goal at the end of this book. This book doesn't go anywhere. There is no thing that they are working through. You are literally just watching her and this guy through their day-to-day life. And I say guy, he's a monster. Like, I cannot emphasize that enough. They are not working through any of her trauma. They are not trying to reach some sort of end goal. You are seriously just watching them live their lives for 530 pages. And so every time I'd pick it up, I'd be like, what is the point? Like, what are we trying to achieve here? And so it felt meandering. It was something that I read. On a more positive note, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 5-star books, not including the one that I'm currently reading that I think is going to be 5 stars. I'm only going to talk about 5 of them. And so I'm going to give some honorable mentions, I guess, of the other 5-star books. So I'm not going to talk about The Quarterback by Tal Bauer. I did give this one 5 stars, but I talked about this in my Single Dads vlog. So that will be linked in all of the places. Seraph by Lily Mayne, I did give 5 stars. This is, I don't know, 5 or 6 maybe in the Monster series. Loved this one. Very, very cute. I'm also not going to talk about The Jock by Tal Bauer since I did just talk about this in the crying section. So those are the ones I'm not going to talk about here for my favorites. And the other 5 are Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. I definitely wanted to talk about this one because I think this is one of those books that is going to run the gamut of ratings. This is definitely a book that is going to be polarizing to readers, and I'm really curious to see how people end up liking it or not liking it. This is a second chance romance between these 2 main characters who are both involved in weddings. Our heroine is a wedding planner and our hero runs this floral shop, and the 2 of them end up having this initial romance. He falls first, and she is love resistant because her mother has been married like 16 times or something like that, and so she doesn't believe in forever. And so the 2 of them are getting their second chance romance now. I think it's like 2 years later. And the way that this story is written is different. At the beginning of the book, you are getting the present day chapters from the heroine's POV and the past chapters from the heroes. And that does change as the story goes because essentially the heroes' chapters are working up to present day. That is not going to work for everyone. I totally get that that is a stylistic choice that is not going to work for everyone. And I loved it. And I think part of the reason why I loved it so much is one of the cool things that this book, I think, did is at the beginning of the book, because you are getting the present day from the heroine's point of view, you have these preconceived notions about the hero. And as you are getting the hero's chapter and moving towards the present, you almost become more angry with the heroine. So you start off being kind of angry with the hero, thinking that he is this very closed off, jerk, grumpy guy. And then as the book goes, you end up feeling that way towards the heroine because you learn what the hero has been going through. And I thought that was so fucking clever to have you be on one side and then slowly transition almost to the other side. And I just thought the way that the author was able to play that was so cool. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. But again, not one that's going to be for everyone. So I'm curious to see how this book does once it comes out in July. I actually had a shocking amount of trade books on this. The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, I also gave 5 stars. I loved The Dead Romantics. I loved this one, I think, even more. This was such a cool concept. Right at the beginning of the book, our heroine is grieving the loss of her aunt, and she ends up inheriting that apartment, and she doesn't want to live there because she has all these memories attached to that apartment, and she is already struggling enough, and she feels like she's essentially immersing herself in this grief. She ends up learning that these stories that her aunt told her about how the apartment can send you back in time are real. And randomly, when you will enter the apartment, you will go back 7 years into the past, and it always happens at a crossroads in your life. And our heroine ends up going 7 years into the past and meeting this guy who had stayed at that apartment while her and her aunt were like traveling 7 years ago. She has this romance with this guy only in the times that the apartment will send her back. And so she can never predict when she will go back or how long she will be back for. And she is gaining feelings for this guy, and he has no idea that she is 7 years in the future. And then their timelines are kind of backwards. So it's almost like Lake House meets Doctor Who. If you know which Doctor Who timeline I'm talking about with him and River, where they are backwards to each other. And so their timelines are backwards. And so she is meeting him for the first time, like in present day, and he's meeting her for the first time 7 years in the past. And it was so fucking clever, and it was so well done. And I really think that Ashley Poston does such cool things with her trade romances, and he loved it. The next one is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I have all of these physically. I don't know why I'm making my life so difficult. I totally understand why people don't love all of Ali Hazelwood's books. But I will say it drives me nuts when somebody will read this book and then be like, it was just like the other ones. Stop reading them. You know that they're all the same. You don't have to read it. It is exactly what you think you are going to get out of an Ali Hazelwood feminist romance. It was hilarious. I loved how much the hero fucking worshipped the heroine. It was adorable. Their bickering, again, super cute. And it has all of the obnoxious Ali Hazelwood things. The hero is ridiculously tall and huge and ripped, and the heroine is teeny tiny, and like all of those things. It's in here, okay? Like, if you are expecting it not to be, it is. But I had such a good time. I will say, do not believe the TikTok girlies when they tell you how spicy this book was. There is one steamy scene in here, okay? Like I said, it hit all of the beats that you're looking for when you go into one of her romances. After that is the one indie book that I have here. It's How to Say I Do by Tal Bauer, and I didn't cry at this book. This was pitched as a Tal Bauer rom-com. I would beg to differ on the rom-com aspect, but it was definitely lower angst than his other books, and it didn't hurt nearly as much. This is following these two guys who meet at an airport. One of our heroes is going to Cancun for his brother's wedding, and the other one is supposed to be going on his honeymoon. But he just got stood up at the altar, and he gets drunk at the airport, and the two of them end up getting on the plane together, and when they get to the resort where they're both staying, they get out of the limo together, and everyone at the hotel thinks that they just got married. And so they end up spending their like long weekend doing all of the honeymoon things together, and they fall in love. And this is following what happens on that vacation, and then what happens after they leave that vacation, and whether or not they can find a way to be together or want to be together. I absolutely loved this. I seriously don't think Tal Bauer could do any wrong at this point. And then my favorite book of the month was We Could Be So Good by Cat Sebastian. I seriously cannot get over how amazing this book was. This is a gay romance set in the 1950s. It was very dangerous to be queer at this point, and it is these two main characters who are total opposites. One is a disaster of a hot mess, and the other one is trying to keep his life as put together as possible so no one figures out that he is gay. And it is an opposites attract, strangers to friends to lovers, and it is beautiful. It is beautiful. I cried. I loved the friendships. I loved the strained family dynamics. I loved the found family aspects of this. I loved the queer community aspects of this, and their friendship into their romance was absolutely everything. And I think it is an absolute travesty that this book isn't getting as much hype as it deserves. So I think that is it, wrapping up my month of June. This was a really, really long wrap up. So hopefully I could get this down to somewhat more of a reasonable length. Let me know if there are other things that you would like me to talk about in these sections when I do these resets, or things that you don't care about maybe. And then tomorrow I will be sharing all of my July reading plans. That July TBR is going to look a little bit different because, again, I haven't had the energy or time or headspace to do my July TBR. So we're going to be doing it a little bit different because I'm going to be filming it here in just a minute. So let me know how your June reading plans went, what your favorite book of the month was, and I will see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye.